Hello, I'm Gary Quinn, and welcome to another episode of Ready, Set, Live. In life, once again, it's important to always make choices that inspire us and live our authenticity. My guest today is a writer, producer, and director who is living her dream and living her best life, Victoria Cordova.
Thank you, Gary, for having me on.
Talk to me about your extraordinary path, how you started in the entertainment business. Was there an epiphany as a child, or you said I was always interested in show business?
No, I actually, I was, but as a child, I did write stories, and I would decorate my stories with like gift wrapping paper around it, like the books I love to read.
Mm-hmm.
Like I loved the book Little Women. I had that underneath my bed, I think for like a year. So then when I had to go to the library, I was like, oh no. But I started out actually in news at CNN News up here on Sunset.
Wow.
And that was interesting.
What were you doing in news? I don't know this.
Did I not tell you? Yeah, it's a comedy. I was in charge of fatalities and suicides. Yeah. Gary knows me. Definitely not me. So I was like, I don't have the stuff for this. And then I went to visit my sister in Hawaii. And then I remember calling my boss. He was so nice. And I was like, are we going to do positive stories or should I just stay in Hawaii? And he's like, I'd stay in Hawaii. And I was like, okay, great. He goes, but now you got to call our other boss who yells. And I was like, oh no. So I asked him, like, are we going to do positive stories? And he's like, no. And he literally was yelling, like, who's going to be in charge of fatalities and suicides? So, direct quote from CNN News.
Now, you went on to produce Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell and Woody Harrelson, and then you went on to produce another movie with Robert De Niro and Sean Penn and Catherine Keener. What was that like working with these iconic people?
Oh, yeah. It was an extraordinary experience. They're so amazing and talented. I was just lucky to be a part of the process and learn from everyone and the amazing crew that I worked with. And that actually led to, I had just had finished a couple years before that. Like I also got my master's for film and television, and my strength is really writing and also just working with people. Like I love producing, and you're almost like your mom, as you're everyone in a family, bringing everyone together and just putting out fires.
Uh-huh.
And so, that really helped me go towards independent, making my own films. And so,
Now, you lived in Europe for a while.
yeah, I did. That was amazing.
Where were you in Europe?
I got lucky. I had my first student film screen at the Cannes Film Festival, and it was sponsored by Kodak Film. And then I got lucky with another film, a feature actually with Robert De Niro, and that was amazing. Robin Wright and Sean Penn that screened at Cannes. And then from that, I also had a couple other films, like a handful of films that screened at the Cannes Film Festival. And then I was able to luckily sell multiple projects to different companies, and that I worked with in Paris and London and also in Russia. So it was a wonderful experience. So I lived in Paris. I also lived in London.
Where did you live in Paris?
Oh, I rented my friend's apartment.
Do you remember what area? I lived in La
It was
Halle.
across from the Louvre.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it was really nice.
Place de Concorde.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, my French is better when I'm there.
Right, me too.
Or drinking wine. Yeah.
And what was the learning process that you would say I really learned so far this as being a producer writer? What was the biggest takeaway that you've learned so far?
I think the biggest takeaway is no matter how prepared you are on every project, there's always something that falls apart that is unforeseen. Like once on a project, we really needed this Cadillac. It was part of the story. And for some reason, it wasn't coming. And so then I remember like, don't tell anyone, we don't have the car, just we'll film other scenes. And we were actually filming over at Will Rogers. over there in the Palisades, and then I was like, "We'll get the Cadillac tomorrow," and it was like basically you just call, do whatever you can, and you make it happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What would you say your biggest challenge so far in life that you've been able to overcome?
Gosh, I think there's been a lot. Let's see. Maybe the biggest challenge was I just finished, it was so wonderful, doing a writing mentorship on Everybody Loves Raymond.
Uh-huh.
And I was working with David Kelly as well. He's amazing. And then I was in a really bad car wreck and I couldn't walk for 9 months. And just, I had a doctor who was supposed to be like a pain management doctor, but he only caused me more pain. And so it was like a comedy. So I kind of went back, it's almost like you're just so grateful for your health. And when I went back to Hawaii, I did everything holistic. And I just felt I had to heal on a cellular level. And so I did energy healing and I worked with Dominique Shelton, who was an amazing healer in Maui. She's still there. And also had worked with Sal, who was an energy healer. And I felt, thank goodness that through that really healed me. But also through that process, you learn so much about yourself. Like, oh, I need to learn to set boundaries, with my family, and just not with family, but with everyone. And it just makes your life so much better.
I think sometimes we are people pleasers and we want to have people like us, and if we say the wrong thing, maybe they won't like us, and then we feel maybe, ooh, I have to do that. But I think really it's all about all our lessons in life are the classroom, and our purpose in life is to grow. And I believe if we have purpose in life, we have life, and so the purpose is to be authentic, but not to hold back or to say, I can't do that, or really, you can say it in a diplomatic way. You don't have to scream it or yell it, but I really think that people need to be authentic these days and say, this is who I am, and not everybody's going to like us, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's okay. A longtime friend of mine, I've known her for years. She's a spiritual teacher. She wrote a book called What People Think About Us Is None of Our Business. And it always hit home, Terry Cole Whitaker, and I spent time with her years ago. She used to live in Malibu. And I think what that book was about was really that you authentically feel who you are, of self-love and empowerment, and know that this is your path. But along the way, there's going to be challenges. Of course, there's going to be bumps in the road, but don't look at it as a good or bad thing. Look at it as, this is my path and this is where I'm growing. But I know I have boundaries with my family, or I have boundaries with this person. So I think what you experienced is really learning how to love yourself more.
Yeah, I think it's such a journey. You're always learning, and it's definitely it's so important to love yourself. You need to love yourself first before you can love other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Why do you think people are not happy?
I think then they're not happy with themselves. And so I think they have to look within. Like, even when I was in terrible pain, I was still happy, but physical pain. So it was like people thought I wasn't happy, but it was just like, oh, it's just the physical pain. But I actually think emotional pain could be way more, more painful than physical.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with everything that's been going on, a lot of people feel that way because they felt so disconnected with people. And it's so important to be with people. Like, it's such a treat to see you, Gary.
Exactly. And the great thing is, I was talking to somebody the other day about how our soul group connects together. And when you're with your soul group, you feel happy and connected.
Yeah.
And
it's soul family.
Yeah, our soul family, even though they're not real family, but they're our family on this earth, or this experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people to realize that
Yeah.
there is a soul family, and when you're in it, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel so. Yeah, I feel like it just could be like a spark in the eye, and
Hmm.
it's like, oh, you feel like you've known this person your whole life.
Right, right,
I know. You
right.
probably get that a lot, Gary, because you have that energy of like
Absolutely.
everyone, such good
I'll
energy,
I'll
such a
go
good
to a
soul.
different country and I may not know that person, but when I meet them, it's as if I've known them all these
Yeah,
years.
I know. It's such a special connection.
Hmm.
And especially from living in Hawaii, I feel you have that so much.
Or the island,
Yeah, with the island because of
spiritual.
the bond there and the
What
Hawaiian energy.
inspires Victoria?
I love writing, and I I think I'm just so passionate about writing. And you write what you know, so I think every life experience, good or bad, is so helpful for your journey, taking you to the next step. And I feel like, yeah, with my stories, I just, yeah, you hope like, oh, give some people like a lift, whether it's through comedy or romance or family.
Is there
And
any special sacred thing you do or a ritual that you do that helps you to detach from life or balance you?
oh, definitely. Um, Definitely, like the other day, I know we were talking, it was just, I love just watching the sunset, just being in nature. And you just thank God. And, you're just so grateful, like, for it's just so healing. And I'm so inspired.
What what does love mean to you?
Love is infinite and it's unconditional.
Hmm. Answer these questions, these one word sentences. Um, Heaven is,
Hawaii.
love is,
Love is infinite. Yeah.
God is.
Love.
What do you usually do that you enjoy doing on a Sunday?
Oh, I love walking the beach and going swimming. Yeah, and just enjoying nature, whether it's through a hike or going through, just even taking a drive along the ocean and just seeing the sunset.
What do you believe that is true about yourself?
That everyone is good, and I always try to look at the good in every person. And I love people, and so I try to embrace everyone. But then sometimes if you don't feel like the energy is positive, then now with setting boundaries, I pull back
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
send love and light from afar.
And I think that when we meet people, sometimes it's so easy to judge them, or we get into some kind of, let's say, situation that we don't understand where they're coming from. But I think it's best just to be and watch them and say, well, that's who they are. I accept them for who they are, even though it's not my cup of tea, but I'm not going to judge it. And I think people in society today, it's so easy to label things or judge situations when really we just have to be in one.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you never know what people are going through. And so, yeah, especially driving in LA, if people cut you off, you're like, well, maybe they had a bad day.
Was there a big, I know living in Hawaii as opposed to Los Angeles is a different, let's say, mindset. What do you miss about Hawaii?
Oh, I think I miss everything. Yeah, mentally I'm still in Maui, but I definitely, the water's so warm. You miss like swimming in the ocean. You miss the culture and the people. But I think you can translate that here too. California is such a great state. I feel like I'm like home in each place.
Mm-hmm.
And but Hawaii, definitely, once you get off the plane, you feel that energy of just slowing down. And I just think it is heaven.
Who would you like to meet or work with that you haven't worked with yet?
Oh gosh, I would love to work with Meryl Streep. I think she's amazing on every level possible. I also I love Emma Stone, and I think she's so talented. There's so many great comedy actors I love to work with. Oh gosh, I love the Wilson brothers, Owen Wilson and Luke. I think are so talented. Matt Damon, I think, is amazing. Loved him in Ford versus Ferrari.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah.
What would be your bucket list project that you'd like to do in the next couple of years?
Definitely. I have an Amsterdam project that I would love to do. And it's a personal story.
Okay.
And yeah, and I'm still friends with them in Holland.
Okay.
I just couldn't say what I was working on.
Right. What is your favorite city so far that you've been to?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I love Berlin. I did 2 projects in Germany, in Berlin. I think it's amazing. It's so artsy. It's like Venice, but in a city. And it's such a great scene with the art scene.
I think each city has its own energy and culture that you feel. And when you keep going to those countries or those cities, you really soak up the culture.
Yeah, I love London too. I know there's
I
so
love
many.
London.
I love Paris. Oh gosh,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Honolulu.
Honolulu, yeah. I love Zurich.
Oh yeah, Zurich is great.
You know,
it's amazing. They make the best chocolate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to thank you for coming in today and for listening, for people listening to Victoria Cordova and your work. And I look forward to seeing more of your projects and what you're working on.
Oh, thank you, Gary.
And thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much. It was such a treat. Thank you.
I'm Gary Quinn. Join me for another episode of Ready, Set, Live. Until next time, be well.